Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer, a name that sends shivers down the spine of anyone familiar with his gruesome legacy. A name forever etched in the annals of American crime, synonymous with horror and unimaginable cruelty. Between 1978 and 1991, Dahmer committed a series of horrific murders that shocked the nation. His reign of terror spanned over a decade, leaving a trail of devastation and heartbreak. His victims, primarily young men and boys, were lured to his Milwaukee apartment where they met a gruesome end. The methods he used to ensnare his victims were as chilling as the acts he committed. Dahmer's crimes included murder, dismemberment, cannibalism, and necrophilia. Each act more horrifying than the last, painting a picture of a deeply disturbed individual. His case remains a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. The facade of normalcy he maintained only added to the horror of his actions. This essay, based on FBI records and investigations, explores the dark chronicles of Jeffrey Dahmer. It delves into the meticulous details of his crimes and the extensive efforts to bring him to justice. It aims to provide insight into his psyche, his crimes, and the devastating impact on the victims and their families. The psychological profile of Dahmer reveals a complex and deeply troubled mind. Dahmer's case is not for the faint of heart. The details are harrowing, and the impact on the families of the victims is immeasurable. It is a story of depravity and violence that will leave you questioning the very nature of humanity. The depths of Dahmer's actions force us to confront uncomfortable truths about the human condition. However, it is also a story that needs to be told. By shedding light on these dark events, we can better understand the factors that lead to such atrocities. By understanding the factors that contributed to Dahmer's crimes, we can hope to prevent similar tragedies from occurring in the future. Knowledge and awareness are our best tools in the fight against such evil. Through the lens of Claymation, we can explore the events and themes of this case in a way that is both engaging and informative, while maintaining a level of abstraction appropriate to the sensitive nature of the subject matter. This creative approach allows us to present the facts without sensationalizing the horror. This exploration into the life and crimes of Jeffrey Dahmer is not an attempt to glorify or sensationalize his actions. Rather, it is a sobering look at the reality of evil and the importance of vigilance. It is a sobering look at the reality of evil and the importance of vigilance. We must remain aware and proactive in our communities to prevent such horrors from happening again. By confronting the darkness, we can strive to create a safer and more compassionate world. Together, we can ensure that the lessons learned from Dahmer's case lead to a brighter future for all. Even in childhood, there were glimpses of darkness within Dahmer. His early years were marked by an unsettling fascination with the macabre, a trait that would only grow stronger as he aged. He displayed a fascination with death, often collecting and dissecting animal carcasses. This morbid curiosity was not just a passing phase, it was a deeply ingrained part of his psyche. This morbid curiosity, coupled with a growing sense of isolation and social awkwardness, set the stage for a dangerous path. Dahmer found it increasingly difficult to connect with his peers, often feeling like an outsider in his own world. Some experts believe that early intervention and psychological counseling may have altered Dahmer's trajectory. If only someone had recognized the signs and taken action, perhaps his dark fantasies could have been curbed. However, these opportunities were missed, allowing his dark fantasies to fester and grow. The lack of timely intervention created a void where his disturbing thoughts could flourish unchecked. School records paint a picture of a withdrawn and increasingly troubled youth. His academic performance suffered, and his behavior became more erratic, yet these red flags were largely ignored. Teachers noted his social isolation and unusual behavior, but these warning signs were never fully addressed. The educational system failed to provide the support he so desperately needed. Dahmer's home life, marked by his parents' tumultuous relationship and eventual divorce, further exacerbated his emotional turmoil. The instability at home only deepened his sense of alienation and despair. He felt like an outsider, adrift in a world that didn't understand him. This sense of being perpetually misunderstood fueled his inner darkness, pushing him further away from any semblance of normalcy. The disintegration of Dahmer's family life coincided with an escalation in his fascination with death. His drawings and writings began to reflect his dark thoughts, serving as a window into his troubled mind. What began as a morbid curiosity transformed into something more sinister, a desire for control and domination over life and death itself. This shift marked the beginning of a dangerous descent into a world of violence and depravity. This desire, coupled with his suppressed rage and feelings of inadequacy, created a dangerous cocktail that would eventually explode into violence. The storm brewing inside him was now on the verge of breaking loose, with devastating consequences. Dahmer's crimes were calculated and cold-blooded, driven by a twisted desire for control and companionship. His actions were not impulsive, but meticulously planned, reflecting a deeply disturbed mind. He carefully selected his victims, often young men on the margins of society, those who were vulnerable and less likely to be missed quickly. These were individuals who, for various reasons, found themselves on the fringes, making them easier targets for Dahmer's sinister plans. Dahmer would lure these unsuspecting young men back to his apartment with promises of money, alcohol, or companionship. His charm and seemingly harmless demeanor often disarmed his victims, making them feel safe enough to follow him. Once inside, Dahmer would drug his victims, rendering them helpless. He used a variety of substances to incapacitate them, ensuring they were unable to resist or escape his clutches. Dahmer's apartment became a macabre stage for his horrific fantasies. The cluttered and eerie environment was a reflection of his chaotic mind, filled with unsettling decor that hinted at the darkness within. It was there that he would strangle his victims, often engaging in acts of necrophilia and dismemberment. His need to dominate and control extended beyond their lives, as he sought to possess them even in death. He photographed his victims in various stages of pose and mutilation, documenting his gruesome handiwork. These images served as trophies, allowing him to relive his horrific acts whenever he desired. These photographs, discovered by police, served as chilling testaments to the depravity of his crimes. They provided undeniable evidence of the horrors that took place within the walls of his apartment. Dahmer's desire to preserve his victims went beyond photography. He collected various body parts, storing them in jars and containers, creating a grim collection of personal items that he kept as mementos. He experimented with crude methods of lobotomy, attempting to create living zombies who would be subservient to his will. His twisted experiments were a desperate attempt to fulfill his fantasy of having complete control over another human being. This desire for absolute control stemmed from his deep-seated feelings of inadequacy and his inability to form genuine human connections. Dahmer's actions were a tragic manifestation of his profound loneliness and isolation, driving him to commit unspeakable acts in a futile attempt to fill the void within.